All right, well, it's that time of year again when bankers tell us how much money they just have to take in bonuses for their talent. According to the Wall Street Journal, the big banks and financial firms are about to shell out $144 billion in bonuses to their employees. Congratulations, Wall Street, you've done it again. That breaks their previous record for bonuses, which was set last year. And these bonuses come despite the so-called financial reform bill that was supposed to put the brakes on outrageous compensation. And despite the fact that we just suffered the so-called Great Recession and the economy is still in massive trouble. So how are bankers continuing to make all this money as the rest of us suffer in this economy? Well, honestly, it's because they're sucking all the money out of the system. The genius idea of the Bush and Obama administrations was that we should give trillions of dollars to the banks and hope that they do the right thing. Does it look like they're lending into the small businesses? No. Does it look like it's trickling down to you? No. Does it look like the bankers have voluntarily done the right thing? Hell no. All the money is instead flooding up to the top. Now let's talk about solutions. William Cohen is the author of House of Cards, A Tale of Hubris and Wretched Excess on Wall Street. He also writes for Vanity Fair, Fortune, and the New York Times. Bill, you've got some interesting ideas about how to change all of this. First, let's figure out what's wrong. Is the idea that, hey, you know what, if we just tell them that they're being greedy and yell at them a little bit, they'll be less greedy. Does that make any sense?
Clearly, that's not working, Sank. I think they've lost it big time this time. I mean, to come back with $144 billion in bonuses after what we've just all been through is really tone deaf to the extreme.
Right. But the reality is, I think tone deaf, who cares? They're taking the money and they're taking it home. From their perspective, it makes all the sense in the world. Obama yelled at me. Ooh, right? So isn't the real problem in the incentive structure?
Absolutely. At the moment, all their incentive is on Wall Street is to generate more and more revenue. So if they find a new product like mortgage-backed securities or junk bonds or internet IPOs, they just sell until a bubble is formed, the bubble explodes. Meanwhile, they get paid for the revenue they generate. What I am suggesting, if you really want to change and have serious reform, forget Dodd-Frank, get these guys to have more skin in the game like they used to when they were private partnerships and their entire net worths were on the line every day for everything that was done. We've gone so far away from that system where they get paid on revenue generated, 40 to 50 cents of every dollar of revenue they generated. They get to put in their pockets. Well, no. They should be paid from the pre-tax profits of the firm, say the top 100 people at these firms, and have their entire net worths on the line. So if something goes wrong, these guys are the first to lose everything, not just the stock options or the restricted stock that they have, but everything, including their house, their bank accounts, their cars, everything. And that'll get them more focused.
All right, that solution is a really interesting one. I'm going to come back to that in a second, right? But I want people to understand what you're saying. So in the old days, when we had private partnerships for the banks, and including the private partnerships that exist today, none of them crashed, right? And the reason for that was what? Why are private partnerships so much better than public financial firms?
Well, here's the thing. When you are in a private partnership, all the capital that partnership has comes from the partners. What a surprise. And the way they used to be constructed is that their entire liability, if you're of a partner, was their entire net worth. So they put capital in, and if one of their partners messed up and the firm got into trouble and there were losses, then creditors could come back to the individual partners and ask them for money from sell their house, sell their cars, whatever, to make the creditors whole. When they went public, all that risk was put on shareholders and creditors, and the incentive system on Wall Street changed completely. That began happening in 1970 and was a march to public ownership from then to 2010 to where we are now.
See, even if they didn't screw the taxpayers, which they eventually did, right? They'd still be, putting their shareholders at risk. And what do they care? They don't own the bank. They run the bank, right?
That's exactly right. And there's no way to claw back and get back from them the money that they took out in form of bonuses and have them somehow be held accountable for the mistakes that they made. What I'm proposing is that they be accountable again, like they had been when they were private partnerships, up to their entire net worth. And if you do that with like the top 100 people at these firms, you'll get their attention again. They won't be playing bridge. They won't be playing golf. They'll be focused on the risks that their firms are taking.
See, Bill, that's really interesting because You know, I don't want the taxpayers on the hook, and I think this is and I don't want even the shareholders to, because that's not the way that capitalism is supposed to, or the creditors. That's not the way capitalism is supposed to work. You take risks, you get reward, but you also have the downside of risk, right? So we believe in capitalism, right?
Absolutely.
But how do we bring that back? Because what are you going to do? Get rid of public corporations? That's not going to happen.
That's not
so what's your proposal?
The proposal is you take the top 100 guys at these firms, the ones making the decisions about what businesses to be in, how to deploy capital, who to hire and fire, and you make these people sign an agreement amongst themselves that they will put their entire net worth on the line, and that'll be evidenced by some sort of security that goes at the bottom of the capital structure. And at first signs of trouble, that's what's get lost first. Not the shareholders, not the creditors, but their entire net worths. And when they have that kind of focus, I assure you, they will be more concerned about the risks they're taking than necessarily the revenues that they're generated by some fancy new product they're selling.
So let me get that right. So if they sign this agreement, the banking executives, the ones making the decisions, they will be the first ones to lose their money. So if you go bankrupt, whether it's
Lehman Brothers or
Lehman Brothers or Bank of America or whatever it might be, they're going to say, hey, you brilliant executives, you screwed this up. Now give me your yacht, give me your mansion, everything, and you're back on the street.
Exactly.
Okay. Now that is a good incentive structure.
You think?
Yeah, that's an incentive structure. Now,
and guess what? That didn't happen at all in this last time.
So we didn't fix it.
No, Dodd-Frank doesn't fix that. Dodd-Frank has this, nothing provision, basically, in my opinion, about say on pay, which is completely voluntary. This would really fix it, because if you fix the incentive structures on Wall Street, you'll fix Wall Street behavior, because Wall Street is motivated by one thing. They do what they are rewarded to do. If they're rewarded to be really prudent about the risks they're taking, that's what they will do. Otherwise, it's all just bells and whistles that they can get around.
See, that's the whole theme of today's show. The politicians are motivated by the money that they get from their donors. So, of course, they're going to do the bidding of their donors. The bankers are motivated by the money that they will make from their bonuses. And if they've got no downside, of course they're going to take risks with your money if you're a shareholder, or they're going to take risks with your money if you're a taxpayer, if the taxpayers back them up. But they will say to you, oh, no, this is unworkable. Because if you do this, I'll take my talents to somewhere else like Bangladesh or Somalia. I'm a little dismissive, as you can tell. But is that a real problem that they would go abroad?
No, I don't think so. As we started the whole discussion with $144 billion in bonuses about to be paid out this year, no business on the face of the earth pays out a greater percentage of their compensation to the employees as they do on Wall Street. They get paid way too much. I know this for a fact. I was there for 17 years. I know how the system works. They get paid way too much to generate revenue. If you cut that down, it would be so simple. Cut down the amount that they pay, make sure that these top 100 guys have real skin in the game, everything they own, and you will see real reform. Forget Dodd-Frank, forget Basel III. These guys will do what they're rewarded to do, which is to be sensitive about the risks they're taking. And none of that exists now.
And so if we were to try to go fix it, is there another way to do this? In other words, to empower the shareholders, again, to go back to capitalism and say, hey, you know what? Shareholders, they own the company, right? So should they have more of a say in executive compensation and maybe even passing internal rules like the ones you're suggesting?
Look, I think that Wall Street should do this on its own, because it's really good. We talk about good government. This is good business sense. If you can assure the people who are investing in your company or the people you're doing business in that you have more skin in the game than they can ever imagine, I think that would be good for business. But we know how Wall Street works. They don't do anything on their own. They don't do it until they're forced to do it. I suggest we get the SEC, who is writing the regulations, to do this. Or if the SEC won't do it, get Congress to do it. Or the shareholders absolutely should demand this. But
right, and Congress needs to pass a law empowering shareholders, because right now, even with the reform bill, they have comically low power, and they're the ones that own the company.
I couldn't agree with you more.
All right. William Cohen, great guest. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.